Hey everybody, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to our channel before we get into today's video. Helps us grow our audience. We really appreciate it, all the usual stuff. If you are watching these and you haven't subscribed yet, please just click on the button. It's very easy and helps us out a lot. We have another interview for you today. It's with Kyle Klaus. Kyle is an actor, and we talk a bit about his process in acting, how he got into it, a little bit on the state of the industry, because obviously COVID is the elephant in the room, and I'm sure you're sick to death of COVID talk, but how do you avoid talking about it, especially with an industry that is pretty much crippled by it, and it's just now starting to pick up again. But he's also a really inspirational guy. He's another one of these people who just hits it hard, knows what he wants, and goes for it. It's super inspirational, and he kind of has two major things going on. He's big into real estate as well as his acting career. So we do touch on that and get into different things, and we even end up talking about like the state of branding oneself in our internet-obsessed, constant social media world. I thought we went for about 20 minutes, and then I wanted to, not hold him up all day because he's doing so much. And after we got off, I realized we were on for about an hour. So the interview was a little bit long, but definitely listen to the whole thing. He's a super inspirational, super interesting, super cool guy. He's been in some really good projects. He has a lot of advice for people, not only on acting, but some financial stuff and just some kind of like life balance things, how to take some of the stress away on different aspects of your life. And it never gets preachy, but it's very practical, awesome information. I was really into it. I probably could have done a 5-hour interview. It was great. Enjoy. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm sitting down with Kyle Klaus today, and Kyle is a guy who wears a lot of hats. So, Kyle, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
Good as can be right now.
Yeah, so. Really. Got to make the best of it, right?
Absolutely.
Well, obviously, we're a pop culture podcast, and Anca, who we've gotten some other interviews for, put us in touch because you are an actor and you've been in some cool shows and stuff. But before we get there, you moved to New York City around, I think she said 2008, 2009, and you actually got into real estate along with acting.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was just, I kind of think that, and now having the hindsight, I really feel that I did it the right way, just trying to play the long game in this career, in the entertainment world. I mean, that's one thing I can look back on now and say, wow, I think I really was on to something as far as, not trying to have these, overnight sensation type, thoughts where I was just, going to be some, go to skyrocket to fame and fortune and stuff like that. It was kind of like, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to really go all in, and I'm going to do this for the rest of my life and, go into the creative world. And I just want to, acting is not, I feel like, going up the ladder, like, being a dentist or a doctor, or even like a director could be. I have some friends that were like PAs and then, assistant directors and then directors and then, like worked up the ranks. Acting is just, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's really terrible. And, I just, didn't want to have to end up being, a waiter till I was, 40 something years old.
Right.
So So I got into real estate and I liked it. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. Yeah. Did you always have a passion for business, or was it just more of, like you're saying, well, acting might not be sustainable day one, so I need another plan to kind of prop myself up?
Yeah, it was a mix, I think, of both. It was kind of like, I need another plan to prop myself up. I didn't really want to just, not have a plan for the future. I wanted to look at and say, hey, look, if this acting thing doesn't happen, at least I can pursue the acting thing. But if I'm in my 40s or 50s, even, what is going to, a lot of people don't break until then, like Bryan Cranston's and all those guys. Like, what is going to, am I going to be happy with still with my life, And then the other portion of it, I mean, I could have done it with tons of things, I think, could have tried to own a restaurant or bar or something like that, just something that was sustainable, but I felt, good about it on the business aspect. I just started loving real estate too. Like I saw there's a lot of different avenues with it. Everybody got to live somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Land, they're not making any more of it. I think you cut out.
Sorry, I hit the mute button by accident.
No problem. I want to make sure it wasn't on my end.
No.
Yeah, that's really cool. I thought it was really interesting because I don't really hear about that a lot. And I feel like, obviously you'd have the insight. Do you feel like that kind of lets you go into auditions more in the good headspace of focusing on the work rather than like, I need this so I can eat next week?
100%. 100%. And I'm glad that you say that because honestly, like, not until really recently, and especially this COVID thing, have I really been eye-opened and been like, wow, I kind of am onto something, or I was on, I'm thinking I'm onto something, like when I started out doing that. And honestly, like I always had a little bit of trepidations with it, of being like, okay, you get acting coaches that are like, hey, you're either a creative or you're a business person. You can't be both. And I hate to limit myself and like put labels on people. It's like, why can't you do, multiple things and wear many hats? So, it's a different part of your brain, the business part and the acting creative part, but you can, exercise both muscles on each side. And I actually heard a podcast one time driving up from home. I think I was home for the weekend and I was driving up to New York City. And I was listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast. And he had on Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this guy pretty much, like, as soon as I heard what he did, and this is before anybody ever knew about it, he got into real estate while he was in auditioning and taking acting classes. After the Mr. Olympian stuff, he had like a little bit of money and he started getting into real estate. He wasn't in real estate sales, but he was a actual $1 million real estate investor before he did Terminator. And that's when I knew, like, hey, I'm 100% doing it the right way for me anyway,
Yeah, for sure.
And it really and he said the same thing, which is what I felt. I'm going into these auditions, not really. It's like, I don't need this to pay the rent. I don't need this to, pay the bills. I'm good, and it kind of gave me, and it gave me a sense of self-worth somewhere else outside of the industry, because acting can be like brutal,
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So,
I'm sure.
Yeah. So absolutely. It did.
Yeah. That's why I was, when Anca told me that, I was really blown away that it's like, that seems like the absolute smart move. Like, get established, then pursue the dream, because now everything else is taken care of. That's all out of your head. I mean, I'm sure it's work, but when you're in the room for an audition, it's out of your head.
Well, the thing I like about real estate, and honestly, I mean, you could do it with other aspects of business, right? Like I said, like you could invest in a bar and essentially be able to have that running, making you some business, like I just really believe that actors, they give up a lot of their power, and, we're creative. And if you work on this part of your business, on a life too, you can really, it almost allows you for more freedom too. I'm a big proponent of people, one, finding things outside of the acting industry, just so you're not like just putting all your self-worth into being an actor. And then second, that, just to be able to do other things, and it allows you the freedom. And with real estate, I mean, there's more things you can do. Like, you get your hands on a little bit of extra money, buy an investment property that's building you cash flow every month. That's, and it's like, I mean, think of how many actors are like struggling to pay the bills, pay the rent. It screws you up mentally about, and especially in New York City and LA. And, if you can buy a multi-unit building and live in one of the units and have everybody else pay your rent, that's one less thing that you have to really worry about, and you're, feeling good about the future on. So that's my biggest piece of advice.
Absolutely.
To actors, really more than just acting, like, yeah.
Nice. And you mentioned like the multi-unit building, being a landlord kind of thing, and with the acting, those are both things that COVID has hit pretty hard. And obviously COVID's been the elephant in the room. There's no way to get around from talking about it.
Yeah.
Has that really affected both aspects of your professional life?
To be honest, I mean, I've been lucky as far as like having, my own investments, just the tenants being able to stay there and still, working with them, like not raising rent or anything like that. Like just, working with them. I've had some come and some go, but for the most part, it's been good. For real estate, what's funny about it is, so acting, there's nothing going on right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, but it's kind of forced me to, I've put a lot more of my emphasis and my, like attention on my business, like real estate now these days. But honestly, the real estate business has been pretty much booming during COVID. It's kind of crazy. It's like, the stock market took a huge hit, but during COVID, like you suddenly realize how small your apartment or something is. So there's always people looking to either, go to another space for more space and upgrade from a 1-bedroom to a 2-bedroom or a 2 to a 3, or move out of town. Like, so there's a lot of movement still around, and like somebody got to live everywhere. Right. So
absolutely.
The inner cities like New York and Hoboken, like, the places with smaller condos and stuff like that, like the city places have really taken a hit during COVID. But the housing market has been like unbelievably booming.
Yeah, interest rates too had a lot to do with that.
Interest rates are super low, yes. And people just that were thinking like, okay, 2 to 3 years out, maybe I'll take my family from a 2-bedroom apartment and move them to a house. Well, now they're like, okay, we're speeding that up. We're doing it now. Yeah. And I'm hearing stories of things going hundreds of thousands over asking in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy, but out of LA and New York and cities and stuff, it's not like that. Like people are leaving town quickly. And I've had a lot of friends, unfortunately, that actor friends that got stuck, like going back to what we were talking about, got stuck. Now, they were actors and, waiters or something, and they've been able to sustain that for years. And now, unfortunately, having to go back home and live with their parents because neither of those two businesses, like that's two businesses right there that are definitely not doing anything. Is, well, now restaurants are opening back up, but for a while they're closed,
Yeah,
so.
And you also own a restaurant, don't you?
Yeah, that would be, you would think that would be the craziest investment to get into during COVID. But
right.
A friend of mine that presented us with a really good opportunity. He already owns, like, I would never recommend doing something that is super risky. And like, I would never recommend putting all your money and trying to open a restaurant yourself if you have no restaurant experience. Like I have none. I have bartending experience, but like as far as anything else, no. But there's this guy that I knew for years. We like hung out in the same circles, and he owns like a couple restaurants in Hoboken, and which is a suburb right outside of New York City, and on the Jersey side, and he's done exceptionally well, like awesome 3 restaurants. So he just kind of came in and was like, hey, we're looking for partners in this one. Here's the concepts. We're sharing rent with another company. So it's going to be less rent, less of an investment. And it's this much money for like, it's basically just a partnership that we invested in, and I don't really have to do much. And I know he's got it,
Nice.
So
and, you mentioned the concept, and I read it's a restaurant flower shop.
Yeah, so get this. This was very interesting to me. There was already an established business there that was doing all of their. So this is what I mean by being a pretty safe investment in my mind. There's an established restaurant there. They were not doing any in-house business. They were doing a lot of takeout. So they, my guy said, hey, look, you can keep it as the takeout, keep that business. We'll share the kitchen together. You work on that. We'll share half the kitchen. And then we're coming in as a restaurant, more seating restaurant and a sit down restaurant. And then also we're bringing in a flower shop that is decorating the whole place. And you can literally sit there and have dinner, and you like your, centerpiece, you can purchase it for sale. It's pretty crazy. And I was like, wow, that's like almost 3 businesses in one, or at least 2 that, so that was cool.
That was funny, especially because it's an American fusion dim sum place, which that in itself is like very unique.
Yeah, exactly. I've never had food like that, but it's awesome.
Nice. And that's in Hoboken for anyone listening who's in the area.
Yeah, Hoboken, New Jersey, called Touch of Heart.
Nice. Okay, so you got your investments going, you got your real estate going, and now the acting thing. Was that like a lifelong passion and you moved to New York for it?
Yeah, I did. I think during college really was where I was, really kind of my first time out of my hometown for the first time ever, and kind of just wanted to. You just drank. I love LaCroix. They're like my favorite thing. That's what I have in here. I just poured it in here. Yeah, no, I just was like looking at it. I was like, yes, I love it. I just kind of was like, wow, I'm, going to have to get a real job after college. Like, I always grew up in a town where it was like, just playing sports growing up. It was such a small town in Pennsylvania. Sports girls, that's all there was, and was just kind of like going with the flow of everything. And nobody from my town ever really did acting. Like they didn't have any good high school plays or anything like that. But once I got to college, I was always hanging around the theater department, and I was so interested just to see how a movie was even made. And I remember that's my first take was just like, I just want to see how this thing is made. And I started, on my summer jobs, I would go towards like Philadelphia and kind of like, always just kind of looking around, and just so happened to meet a talent agent while I was lifeguarding in Philadelphia. Well, before this, my freshman year, I saw a sign in the theater department, because you know how they make you take, extracurricular classes and everything. And I was in the communications theater department, and I saw it said, "Want to be in a movie." And that was like the sign. And they were actually ahead of their times now that I think about it, I don't want to date myself, but this is like 2000 or something. And they go, and it said, "Want to be in a movie, visit this website." And I had to go to it, see the breakdowns, put myself on tape. And the first time I ever put myself on tape was reading the other person's lines and leaving space for mine, because I was so embarrassed to tell anyone I wanted to become an actor. Okay. And I sent it in on a VHS tape, and I got hired for it. And that it just kept snowballing, because then I went to Philadelphia, started being an extra in like bigger productions. And then just by happen chance, like Mark Wahlberg was doing a film the following summer, and I knew I was his same height and like kind of build, and I knew that they needed stand-ins and doubles, and they worked closely with the actor, and I was like, wow, I could get close to this A-list actor that I've looked up to for so long. And I ended up doing that for a couple years with his, he actually did a couple movies in Philadelphia, and worked with him. And then it just snowballed from there. I was, on a daytime soap opera. I was always coming up for auditions, and it was like the whole day, when you come up to New York City from Pennsylvania, it's like you leave at 4 a.m. for an audition, and then you get home back at like 4 p.m, and it's like your day is gone. So I was like, it was kind of out of necessity. Yeah,
that's awesome. So it's a really good break to have early to be a double for Mark Wahlberg and get like really in with the production company like that.
Yeah. I never forget 2 things I asked him that stuck with me, or that made me, was one of them was, I think the first time was on a movie called Invincible, and which I love the Philadelphia Eagles, and he was playing a Philadelphia Eagle guy. So it was like a big thing in Philadelphia. And I remember going up to him and saying, "Hey man, to an up and coming actor, like one piece of advice?" And he said, "Get to where the action is, New York or LA." So I always kept that in mind. And then the second thing was, I think I was on the next film, and I was like, "Hey, Mark, what would you say, New York or LA?" And I remember him going, "It doesn't really matter. The 5-year goal is to be bi-coastal." And I was like, That makes sense too.
Yeah.
So like just those two little pieces of advice were like, all right, that's where the big boys play. Like get to where the action is and just, if you're in New York, you can build up in both areas.
Nice.
And now I'm kind of like, I would call myself bicoastal. The longer you're in the industry, the more you're just gonna, one of my best friends moved from New York to LA, and I always told him, I was like, man, I got to have a closet here and a couch whenever I need. And he was like, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So the TV work you've done, because you've been on some pretty major network shows, definitely ones that get millions of viewers.
Yeah.
That was after the movie work where you were kind of doubling Mark Wahlberg, or kind of in the
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, what's funny is my biggest years have been just the past couple years. So it's been busier than ever. Like not until I would say I was in New York like 6 years until I got one. It really took. My biggest advice also for actors would be to really hone in on what you want to do. Because there's like a tendency of coming in the industry and going, I don't want to limit myself. I want to do everything. Like I could be an awesome theater actor. I could be a film actor. I could be a TV actor. I could be not like just trying to do everything and trying to do every part. And like, the thing is that you're not going to get the parts that are going to, Daniel Day-Lewis that are going to like, these, Joaquin Phoenix and stuff and Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, you're not going to get those. You got to like, not until about 6 years and being like, not getting any of these roles and being just really getting focused and going like hyper focused and going, okay, what do I want to work on? Like, I want to work on awesome cable and internet, or like cable and TV shows. And I want to work on awesome feature films. And then going, okay, who are the casting directors that cast these shows? Who are there's so much that can come off of being hyper focused and super specific. Like, who are the agents that are getting these clients onto shows like this? And not like the major parts, but like who are they, like the co-star level roles? Because that's what I'm going to get first. And then I'm going to go grow from there. So, unless I'm going to be with like a CAA or a William Morris Endeavor, it's like, okay, what's my type? Cop, office. I know it seems like, very general and everything, but like, what am I going to get cast at? What's a no brainer? And kind of focusing on going into casting directors and meeting them and just kind of making their job easier, and just going, hey man, like I could fill a position that you have. And then, and then after that, I got like, just being focused on it. I got, what did I get? I got the Billions was my first ever TV role in 2015. And since then it was like Blacklist, Homeland, The Last OG, opposite Tracy Morgan, and kept growing. 2019 was my best year.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I had a recurring on Blacklist and this show called Happy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not to bring things down, but are you worried that COVID kind of took your momentum away, or do you think when things ramp up, because everyone's momentum was taken away?
Yeah. No, it doesn't take it down. I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't have any angst about it. I feel like it's not like anybody else is doing anything and I'm not.
Right.
We're shut down across the board. No, I feel like I'm actually happy with, it's funny. I started doing all this stuff out of sheer necessity of convenience for auditioning. So for auditioning virtually, I was, for a while there, it would take up, like, when you have one audition every couple weeks, it's not hard to go into the city. It's right there across the river, but it takes 30 minutes to get in, then like to meet somebody, then to put something on camera, then to have a reader. And then, it just like, it takes up some time. But it's like when I started getting more auditions, I was going, okay, how do we do this where I can just be in my apartment, read with somebody like you right now on video, tape myself, and just be able to send that in or something like that. And I booked. I think I worked with somebody that I just went into the audition afterwards, and I ended up booking Blacklist and The Last OG and Happy, just from working with them virtually and then just going into the audition. And it just felt great. I was like, oh, this is how, the future, this is, and then when COVID hit and everybody started, like, that's what we got forced into doing. Just the only thing is there's no auditions right now. So,
right. Yeah. I imagine as things slowly open up, that's going to be an industry shift where there might be a lot more virtual auditions, even not out of necessity, just because it's like, oh, this works.
Yeah, I actually think, and I think out of necessity, meaning like they're not letting any in. I think every audition right now is starting to be virtual from what I hear. Like shows are casting. I have a good friend that's a high up, like a assistant director, and they're taking a lot of precautions right now. And they just started filming in early October. Like they're starting now, and he's just like, man, but somebody gets it on set, especially the main actors. It's everything's getting shut down again. So it's going to be a little bit of a wait and see kind of thing.
Yeah, especially smaller productions, they can't really afford all the extra parameters, and then after a week to get shut down for another 2 weeks. And
exactly. You hardly have any money as it is, especially on smaller productions. So and then just to get somebody like that and get shut down, it would be terrible.
Yeah, it's crazy how things are.
Yeah. But I mean, it's forcing me to do a lot of other things. I'm loving it. I'm doing a lot of that's actually one project which I'm doing is writing a lot.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah. So I was working on it before COVID, and we were, it takes a while. I was actually working on it with a friend in LA, and how we would do it was I just felt like my time between real estate and acting was so taken up that I was like, all right, how do if I'm going to write a script, this was about a year ago. I was like, if I'm going to write a script, what can I do? And I just started getting up at 5 a.m. and writing from 5 to 6. So I knew that if I did 5 to 6 every day and wrote 5 pages, whether it was good or bad, I was going to get it done, right?
Yes.
Eventually. And it's funny because I started writing with a writing partner. We had these ideas of a script, and I started writing the 5 pages, and I would send it to him to read and to review. And he was like on the opposite mentality where he's like, hey man, I'm creative. If I don't feel it, I just can't write things out. And I'm like, I appreciate that creative inspiration, but say you're a writer on a TV show and you show up and your job is to write. You're not going to tell them, hey guys, nah, not feeling it today.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You have a week to get your script in.
Yeah, exactly. So I just started writing, and you would be surprised at how much I feel like you start flowing, even though you don't feel it at first. And then you start going, and then one thing comes, and then you're like, boom, 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 boom. And you start,
oh, for sure,
getting somewhere. And I started sending it to him, and he would revise it a little bit and send it back. And before you know it, we had like a 120-page script. And we just, but during COVID, we were like, all right, we got to get this thing, like, let's rewrite it. Let's get this sharp, because now everybody's looking for content, and people are going to be home. And you would think they'd have all the time in the day, but it feels like everybody's busier right now. I don't know why, but it's like, but anyway, so we're sending it around right now to a lot of people, and we have some really, really good interest from people. So like high level, studio type interest.
Right. Yeah.
So
very
that's kind of what I want to. Yeah, I kind of want to a lot of people I feel like do things and then just shoot them, and then they half-ass it and it doesn't go anywhere, or I just didn't want to do like an amateur project with something and just write it and then film it with some buddies and then try to edit it and all that stuff. It was almost like, you know what, if we're going to do it right. Like write the script and then just really do it the right way. Like copyright it, register it, and go to everywhere and try to exhaust all our outlets.
Yeah. You got the time now, so you might as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No rush to like shoot anything, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I think that might also be a benefit of you having your whole financial side established, is that you don't have to like make something for the sake of making something. You can make it.
That's exactly right. Like my buddy is he's a high up exec, like sales exec at a hotel. He used to be an actor, but he's he stopped doing that totally, but he's in hospitality. And the hotel industry shut down for a long time. Now they're starting to ramp back up, but he had the time to do it. And, he's set too. So it's not like he's some struggling, aspiring writer. He's established. We're literally just doing this because we want to, and we have fun doing it, So it's like, I think it does help, and I think that, having the business set up for me is like, this isn't going to make or break me. It's like, I'd rather sit here and sit on this thing for a year or two and try to go to everybody we can and get it done the right way and really make something,
Yeah. I love that mentality.
Yeah. Just do it the right way. So that's kind of where we're going with it, and we'll see what happens, but awesome. We got some good interested people and it's kind of exciting. So
I imagine so. Yeah.
Just never, what's that?
Taking a lot of virtual meetings.
I took a couple. Yeah, we took a couple on them. We took a couple phone meetings, a couple virtual meetings. But yeah, it's just it's a whole new thing. Like read it, like it's a whole new thing, like writing, and it's a whole new business. Cause I have acting managers, but it's an agents, but I don't have like a literary one. Yeah. And I don't know how the procedures work. Like that's learning something new, is like, do I have to get a literary manager or agent to get this in the hands like of somebody high up? Cause it's not unsolicited, but it's cool. It's cool learning that.
And I guess now's the time to figure that kind of stuff out, because if you're not the first one through the door, well, no one's through the door right now. So you have the time to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Exactly. And I mean, honestly, like it kind of puts another light on me too, of being not just an actor, with it. It's like, I'm serious. Like I would love to be in the film, but I'm not writing it for that purpose. I think the main character is like more like me because it's kind of loosely based on a situation that we just kind of ended up dramatizing the hell out of it. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like started out as something real life. And then we just were like, snowballed all this like dramatization about it. But it's interesting. Like I wouldn't even be opposed to not playing the right character or, the main character. It's like, not like I'm gung ho on that. I would, I'm writing this just to, if I can do that, and be like a Rocky in like, the Sylvester Stallone in the Rocky films and be like, I'm going to play this, but I'd be open to being like, hey, Zac Efron wants to come on and play the main role. It's like, I'm not stopping you. Like, let's do this, and let's just make it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that probably keeps a lot more doors open too.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see what happens. That's like,
yeah. There was some, Anca mentioned that you were starting your own production company in the midst of everything else you're doing.
Well, I did just open up an LLC for a production company, because that's like one of the things, if this goes somewhere, like seriously, say like Paramount or somebody wants to do it, I would like to be, in association with my production company. I just opened it up. It's called Wishlist Productions. So
you're not just selling the script and getting rid of it. You'd like to stay attached.
Stay intact. And that's why I'm saying, like, if it makes sense for somebody else to come on, like Zac Efron, you got a Zac Efron movie, but now I'm attached, and now it's a different level of, of credibility. Like it's my production company that's on this film, so it's not like I'm married to being the main role in this film, even though I'd love to be, but
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But I did, Wish List Productions. This is the first time I'm coming public with it. I was thinking about doing something on like, you're exclusive. You got it. I was thinking about doing like I don't know, like an Instagram post or something eventually, but I just didn't do it yet. But Wish List Productions is based off of my like relative to my last name's Klaus, Kyle Klaus. So I was like, well, what's Santa Claus? Wish list. That's
I think I went Klaus in the beginning. Sorry about that. I should have.
Oh, you did Klaus?
Yeah.
Everybody does that, but no, it's actually pronounced Claus. Yeah, like right. Santa.
Sorry about that.
So no problem. I didn't even hear it. I like hear it all the time.
Okay.
Klaus, and I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. That's me. But yeah, so Wishlist Productions, because then also it's like, well, I thought it was cool because everybody always says like, well, who's on your wish list to play this part in a film? Or like, who's your wish list of directors to play this? Mm-hmm. That's where I kind of came up with it.
That's a good name.
I thought so.
I can see that sticking around.
Thank you for confirming that.
Yeah. With all of my sway.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool.
So you're acting, writing, real estate, restaurant, taking full advantage of COVID. And one thing I forgot to ask about in the beginning is you also have a YouTube channel.
Oh, yes. So that's kind of tying everything in together. That actually I just started during COVID. Okay. That is tying everything in together. I honestly don't even know how I came up with this. I think I started watching some YouTube stuff and I started seeing some people that were like doing, well, first of all, there was my first thought of this, which was before COVID, was I'm going to make an acting YouTube channel, like to give all these people that are, and I actually should do more of acting videos, but I want to make acting videos of like all the stuff I've learned from 2008 to now, coming to New York City, and like, what is the real deal? What's important, coming from a legit working actor, so that it gives the real deal. Cause there's so much crap out there, man. And this is actually making me more passionate about it now that I forgot about. This is why I wanted to start the channel. But it was like, it's just like you get a lot of, you get these casting director workshops, you get these like acting mentor people, and like they're not even actors.
Right.
It's like it drives me nuts. Like, nuts that like these people that are doing this are going, oh yeah, but give me $200 and taking money from these like just wannabe actor, these people that are really like after the trying to be this thing and put them out there, and they're like just handing over money, and people are like taking it and just going, oh, I used to be a casting director, and like, yeah, I have a workshop, and like they bring in casting directors and then they charge them all this money, and then they treat the actors like crap, and it's just like, really, until you're out of it, you don't see how effed up it is. And I just kind of wanted to like, that's my initial thing, was just to like, okay, let me give the real deal to some actors and make it an actor YouTube mentoring channel. But then when COVID happened, and I was like, man, all these people that didn't have any financial kind of knowledge, like my actor friends are the worst at some financial, like, just knowing what to do with their money, basically. Like they're, like some of my actor friends and actors in general sometimes have like a hard time with that. So, and I don't blame them. I mean, it's like creative, a creative brain sometimes is,
I also feel like you have to seek out financial education because it's not really readily available.
I think maybe you're right. Yeah. I don't know.
That's the way I feel anyway.
That's a good point. But yeah, it's like, if you want to know about it, it's there, there's so much like with the internet these days. And I've been watching these people on YouTube, these like kind of kids, not kids, but like, in their 20s, I don't know what they've really done, but they're like giving all this financial advice, on like stocks and like all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I did do this, I'm there, I've reached these levels of like successfulness with this stuff. So like, why limit myself? Then I thought about making like a real estate YouTube channel and like financials. But then I was like, you know what? I mean, it's not like I don't have enough on my plate, So it's like, I don't think I'm going to try to make 2 YouTube channels right off the bat. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm just like,
right there.
What's that?
That'd be a full-time job right there.
I know. I'm like, and it's tough. Yeah. I didn't realize how tough and how much goes into it that like, you know, at first I didn't tell anybody about it, but I was seeing all these like, you know, actor friends and people getting like really hit hard with this pandemic and just not having themselves like set a little bit and just being like, holy shit, I don't have any money as a buffer to pay, you know, like, and just relying on like unemployment and stuff like that. And look, it sucks and people have to, it happens, but just kind of like with a little bit of financial knowledge, you can really set yourself up and give yourself a little buffer. So I started making this, I just decided like, hey, I'm just going to do this and make it a whole YouTube channel. Like make it, you know, sometimes I'll put out acting advice. Sometimes I'll put out, you know, and it's like, you can watch it or you don't, and you know, whatever. But I started putting it out there like all the time because you have to get to like some kind of level to have like ads on there and everything. So like I started putting it out there a lot, and I think it did pretty good. I put one video out there that was just like, I saw all these like other YouTubers that were doing great talk about like the stimulus and when the stimulus checks were coming. And I put this one video out there that absolutely like took fire and went viral, that like had like 70,000 views in the first day and like 5,000 likes. And I was like, holy shit. And I got all these subscribers from it, but I don't know.
Yeah. Nice.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of work. Channel.
Yeah. It jump started my channel. So I was like, all right, cool. So.
And that's actually something I was thinking about in the beginning of our conversation. You were talking about how people are telling you you're a creative or you're a businessman and they don't mix. But I think now in the internet, social media age, you have to be a brand. So your channel could be mixed and you're an actor and you're a real estate guy and you're teaching both on your channel, but you are making your brand. And I think that's actually necessary.
Yeah, that's actually really like insightful. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, it's like, with that being there, it's my own brand. Yeah, you know, like, it's like the actor financial, you know, now that I didn't even think about that, but it's like, why? Yeah, it's a stereotype to say that you can only do one or the other. And to your point is now with internet and these like internet stars, these like internet or like internet, you know, Instagram sensations or people like that. It's like they start out being their own business, you know, being their own person, like being their own like brand, being their own, like creating the content and putting it out there and being the talent and everything else. So it's kind of like, don't hold back and don't hide any parts of yourself. Like if you're good at, you know, if I'm good at financial stuff and good at real estate stuff and like, but also can work out and be a professional actor at the same time, like I would hope that I should just put it all out there and that's my brand. And, you know, it can inspire some to do other things as well.
Yeah. I don't see why the streams can't cross. You know, someone really likes you as an actor and they're following your projects and they also find out like, oh, look, he's got 30 videos telling me how I can be smarter with my money. Well, I don't want to be chained to a desk for the next 55 years. Let's watch some of that.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I mean, I guess it was like, you know, it's like anything else. You just have this stereotype and this like stigma of like, well, either people don't want to talk about money because they think it's like a bad thing or something like that. And if you want it, you know, you're like, oh, you're a greedy person or something like that. Like I know a lot of people like that too. And I've had that mentality growing up, like where it was like, you know, didn't come from any kind of money or anything like that. So it's like, you know, it's like kind of the people with money are bad and like all that stuff. But it's like, this stuff is all beliefs that are passed down or that are told to you. And they're all like projecting other people's fears. Like what I realized is like some of the acting coaches that were telling me this thing that's all they were coming from. And they were projecting their fears on me about, hey, you can only be a creative. And it's almost like to make themselves feel better. I feel like, and I've talked to other people about this that have actually relayed this to me. And they're like, well, that's to make themselves feel better because they have insecurities of this thing and they're projecting that on you and they're taking this higher, like, oh, well, you have to be a creative, and you have to live and die for your craft and this and that. And it's kind of like what do you call that? False, where you're like,
they're kind of make themselves feel better because they don't have it, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like, you're basically suffering for you're basically like making yourself a martyr. That's it.
Yes, there you go. That's perfect.
That's it. That was the thing.
Always playing the martyr. Yeah.
Always playing the martyr. That was it. So.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you saying that. That's really cool.
Well, I think it's really smart, and I think it's good. And you obviously have the drive, and I think that's the other part of the formula is you have to be the brand, and you have to just never stop.
That's If I had to attribute anything to my successes, maybe that I was just too stubborn to stop anything.
That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
I mean, Ray Kroc is, kind of a horrible guy. The guy who stole McDonald's. The founder. He had that quote: "Perseverance above all else will manage success," or something along those lines.
Good
quote though. As much as he would.
No, it's a perfect quote. It's like, if you stay at something long enough, you're going to get it in some way or another.
Yeah,
and you know what? That actually, there was another thing that Tony Robbins, I'm actually like a big fan of. I think he's like, he says a lot of the same stuff sometimes if you hear his stuff over and over again. But I mean, you can't deny that he's motivational, but then also like he teaches there's some good quotes that I've heard from him and have stuck with me. And it's like, the one thing is that you can basically achieve any goal if you set out with a plan, and then if that plan doesn't work, but you find out why that doesn't work or like didn't work, and just be able to course correct and then go after it again from a different angle. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you're persevering and you're stubborn not to stop. So you're going after this thing, but you're not like doing it without critically thinking, or like you're not being dumb about it and just going after it and not working, going after it again with the same and expecting different results the same way. You're kind of, going, okay, why didn't this work? Well, maybe I can tweak this here and then go after it again. And you might be just off a little bit, but if you keep trying it and you try it again and it still doesn't work, well then, like, what do you need to improve to get through? And that's kind of what it is about also.
Absolutely. And as you do that and persevere and figure it out, once you get there, you've earned it and you're so much more established than if you just fall into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm personally glad now that I haven't done anything and gotten anywhere too easily, where
appreciate it.
Makes you appreciate it. And it also makes you kind of have a chip on your shoulder about it and be like, you know what? I did the work. Like I put in the time. I deserve this, instead of being like, whoa, I'm handed this thing. I don't think I deserve it. And now I'm like, all, shut up. And I talked to, there's a guy, I don't want to mention his name, but he was a very, very successful, very established, one of the series regulars on Boardwalk Empire. And I remember talking to him about something, and he's like, I was asking him some questions about the business, and he said that to me. He said, you know what, man, you're doing the right stuff. So just keep doing it. And you're going to get on set one day, and I've seen a bunch of people on set, and they got there too easily. You just know they got there one way or another too easily. And and you're going to just like hold that in and be like, you know what? I know you. Like, I know who you are, and like you're going to have that self-worth and self-confidence more that way because of that.
I feel like there's not a lot of longevity in it if you just are gifted something.
Yeah.
Like you've probably seen that in real estate where you worked so hard to get that first building, and then you see somebody who's handed their first building, but how does that deal go in 5 years?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, if you don't it's always, and real estate it's actually funny going back to real estate. It's like, you could look at me and say, like, during this COVID thing, to be honest, and I know I'm fortunate, but this was my best year I've ever had in doing the company and sales, which is, I'm very grateful for that, because a lot of people had hard times this year and everything, but like, I didn't have the acting stuff to do or anything else, a lot of other things. So I hyper focused on this and ended up having my best year. And I really don't think it was only because of what I did. It's because of a lot of people fell off and were either not wanting to do any work or not wanting to do as much. But the thing about real estate is this: it is like acting, whereas you're only as good as your next job. You only have, even big name actors that I was on set with, I remember they would always look and see what was going on, they were doing next, because it's like, you're always worried about what's the next thing. So even if, I know a lot of real estate people like this, they close a big deal and they're like, whew, got that check, taking it to the bank, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Or they get under contract with something, and then you don't have to, it doesn't close for another month. And you're just like, yep, take it in, it's not about taking it easy, and they're taking it easy. But the thing with me is, no matter how big of a deal I just did, the next day I am back on the phones or doing what I need to do to generate new business. That's, once this goes away, it's a never ending stop of that. Absolutely. And it's the same thing with, if you were just acting, it would be like, okay, cool, I'm on set right now. Or I just booked this job that's going to shoot for the next 4 months. That's awesome. What's after that? Right. Now I got the ball rolling. Now I'm hot. Now what's after that? And
wait 4 months, then apply. Then you're going hungry.
Yeah, you're not going to wait 4 months and go and that's what probably a lot of people, I don't know about the acting world as much as that in that case, because you're on a high level if you're getting those kind of jobs too. But if it's you get there and then you get done that job, and now you're that's your agent's job to kind of keep the ball rolling and everything. So, but you get done and you're all of a sudden not as hot. Cool down. It's you already did this. So now it's not they're anticipating, you knocking it out of the park. You want to get hired before your next job comes out, basically, in acting. And in real estate, you just want to keep pushing it along. And a lot of people don't have that drive to do it every day, because that's the part that sucks,
Right. It is exhausting, but that's how you get ahead.
It's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. I just contacted, I'll give you a little insight. Before we talked on this, I did 25 contacts that I talked to people. 5 new people, 5 sphere of influence that I've been past clients or something like that, just to check in, see how they're doing. 5 buyers that I'm working with, and 5 follow-up people that I talked to that might have been new yesterday, but are now, it's just a follow-up email or phone call. And that's exhausting. It takes 2 hours to do. And and I could tell agents and people to do that, and they will make that much money or do that well and be that productive. And a lot of people won't do it.
Mm-hmm. Or get simply won't. Week and burn out. Yeah.
Yeah. And just be this isn't working. Or this sucked, or I didn't do good. But it's it's not about that. It's I could call for the whole week and not get anything, and then talk to one person. And this happened to me 2 weeks ago. He was a past client of mine, and he goes, "Man, your ears must have been ringing, because I was just thinking about buying a 2-bedroom, $1 million plus condo and selling my old place, and you just called in time." To talk about this. Yeah, so I was wow, that's amazing. And that's where the harder I work, I feel the luckier I get with stuff like that, because,
I hope that's a takeaway people get from this whole insane COVID situation, is you kind of have to make your own luck and look for the opportunities, even when things seem at their worst.
Absolutely. You can't, no
one's going to knock on your door and give it to you.
No. And you can't play the woe is me thing and go, oh, acting's done. well, I just got to wait till this blows over and, go back to mom and pop's house. It's like, well, you could have used a couple months to write your own feature. Like, have you ever wanted to do that?
Yeah.
Have you wanted to, like, we're virtual right now. I mean, you could work on scripts you wanted to work and nail down things. Yeah. You could,
your YouTube
you could
channel.
Learn new hobbies. You make a YouTube channel. Like,
podcast.
Make a podcast. There's so much that people can do. Literally anything you want to do, you can do it.
Yep.
And I mean, there's no end to it. And I just, it's crazy to me when people don't have that mentality.
Do you ever feel like you have a lot of balls in the air, and that's a good thing? You're probably someone who likes being busy, I'd imagine. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be able to stomach it. Do you ever feel almost crippled by too much? And I don't mean you feel overwhelmed, but like things are all going good, but it's like, what do I touch next? Like, I got here, and I got my script going, and I got real estate deal. Like, where do I go?
Oh my God. Yeah. Sometimes I do. Like last week, I felt like the wheels were just spinning off. This weekend I went away, finally got out of town for like 3 days and with some friends, and it was great and like a reset. But the only way that I'm able to do what I'm doing, I think I attribute it to schedule, putting everything in my schedule. So like, I don't even have to-do lists anymore. Like I remember I used to, and then it would just be like, I would always put the hardest stuff to the end, and then things would just pile up, and then it would never get there. But I do have to-do lists in a respect of like, if I have something to do, I might write down a list, but I implement them into my calendar of like, okay, I have an hour to do this, or I have an hour to do this. So just like the thing with the writing of the script, I was like, I'm too busy already, but I want to write a feature film. That's like crazy. If I would tell people like what I'm doing, like running real estate business, like acting, doing all this other stuff, running multiple businesses, how am I going to write a script in that time also? Well, it just made sense that I could get up from 5 to 6 and write. I mean, I was just sleeping during that time, and I was like, okay, I just got to get up an hour earlier. Like, yeah, I'll be more tired. Might lose some sleep, but that's 7 hours of direct writing time. And during that time, I try as best as possible to not even look at the phone, not emails, any of that stuff. So I would say that, yes, I 100%, like anybody else, feel so overwhelmed sometimes with doing things. But if you schedule everything the right way, then you can really do almost anything you want and just not sleep the day away. And, you only need like 11 to, I slept 11 till 5 yesterday, and I feel completely fine and great, right. Ready to take on the world. It might have been all the coffee that I drank, but
yeah, it could be. Keeps you going.
Keeps me going. But yeah.
Yeah, that scheduling thing is exactly what I was getting at. Because when you mentioned that I write from this time to this time, and that's all I'm doing in that time. I'm not checking my email and writing a few paragraphs and going over here. And especially in a COVID, everyone from home thing, I think that's so important.
Yeah. And I mean, that's easier said than done, right? Sometimes you're just like,
it takes self-discipline.
Yeah. Actually, one thing I heard from Tim Ferriss on a Tim Ferriss, either podcast or something, was he said about that. He's like, schedule everything. And when you're like taking phone calls and all that stuff, like do it if you can while you're driving or while you're going somewhere where it's like, that's all you're doing anyway. And I really try to set that up. Like if I'm driving into Hoboken or something, it takes half an hour or so. I could make 3 or 4 phone calls that I would have wasted that just sitting at home and while I was doing other stuff that was more productive. But, doing that. And he said something. He said this, and this stuck with me too. Be okay with being bored. Because when you do something like that, like put your phone away and focus on one task at hand, you're so much more productive at that task than being like, oh, here's a text. Oh, get this text. Oh, like what's an email coming in? Like, oh, it's like sensory overload. You know what I mean? And if you're okay with being bored, meaning like sometimes you're not the most, like, it's not that exciting to write, just 5 pages or writing or something, but you get a lot done, in that hour.
For sure. And you're in the right headspace.
Yeah. And you don't got to, like, you're in the right headspace. You start getting into it. It takes like maybe 10, 15 minutes sometimes for me to like start getting everything flowing. And, you don't have to, I fall into the trap sometimes where I feel like people need an immediate response on text or something like that. And it's like, and then you start getting into this conversation on text, where it's like you're going back and forth, just writing each other, and you could have had the phone call in like 5 minutes and been done. But it's like, yeah, man, it's crazy like that. But I really think that, if you just do that and be okay with being bored and just settling and just doing some task at hand, you really get a lot done,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of hours in the day to get things done. There's always time for something else.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with everything. And, just think that, it's all about, you can do anything you want to do. It's just like schedule it into your call or your schedule. Yeah. And then the other piece of advice is, if it's not on your schedule, it doesn't exist. So don't fall into like, looking at Instagram for an hour and going down the rabbit hole. Right. You could easily go on Instagram for an hour, and lose track of it and just be like fiddling or YouTube or something. But, you just wasted an hour. You could have been being productive.
Yeah. For anyone who's listening who says they don't have enough time, get one of those apps that monitors your screen time on your phone in different apps.
Oh my God.
For your time
Yeah. That's 100% true. Yeah. Now, the only bad thing is that this phone is literally my whole real estate business, basically.
Yeah, so you're a little different situation with that. You have to answer when someone calls.
Sometimes. Actually, no, I don't answer when anybody calls. If I get a phone call, I usually my phone's always on silent, because I feel like that's another thing I even tell real estate agents is like, don't play. Like when you first get into the business in real estate, and I guess in a lot of other industries too, it's like you feel like at the drop of a hat, you will change your schedule to help a client out. But like, that's going to make you miserable. It's not going to allow you to schedule in the time and the things that you want to do. Like, I would never, like where I just said I was making those phone calls for production. If I had a buyer that was like, hey man, I wanted to see this place. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll take you to it. And then I took him to it and dropped all that other stuff. That's a lot of other business or productive things that I should have been doing. But I go, you know what, today, I don't need to do it. And I go take this buyer out and I drop my schedule, go towards him and go with his. And then he doesn't end up going forward with it or something like that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Then I just wasted, that was all that wasted time that I could have been doing that. And you know what? Just reschedule on your own time, or that's a time that's convenient for both of you. Say, you know what? I can't do it this time, until after 2:00. What's good for you after 2, or something like that.
I don't want to set that precedent that whenever you call, I'll drop everything, because you can't do that for everybody. And then it's expected. So
if I would do that, I would literally just be at the mercy of clients all day long, people all day long. Like, so I don't very much, my phone's like turned upside down right now and it's on silent, and that's how it usually is during the day.
Nice.
But so
all right.
I don't know.
We just talked a lot about time and scheduling, and I don't really want to eat up your whole day. I mean, I could talk this kind of stuff for hours. I mean, I love it.
Awesome.
But, I'm sure you're very.
Well, no, it was great, man. It was great meeting you, and it was great being on here, and it was all the stuff I love to talk about too. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I'll be checking out your YouTube channel. I'll put the links in the show notes for anyone who's interested. YouTube and Instagram, I'm on the most. Anca's telling me to venture onto Twitter a lot. I know she's probably hearing this, and Twitter is like she's trying to get me to go towards Twitter and other stuff. But if you go to my Instagram, my YouTube are pretty much the things I'm on constantly. Nice. All right.
When I have free time, not on all the time.
Yeah, not all the time. Right. Yeah.
We just talked about that. Yeah.
Awesome. So. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate you taking the time. Very interesting stuff. keep me in mind if your script goes and it's getting made, or you have something to plug, or just want to talk again. Well, we can do this
Absolutely.
again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was great talking to you, man. It was very easy to talk to. So,
thank you. Right. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. I hope you were as into that as I was. Once again, that was Kyle Klaus. We have his links in the show notes. Check out his stuff. Check out his YouTube channel. It's just growing now. As he mentioned, he kind of just started putting it together. But he's got some great videos on there, and you can definitely get something out of them. Once again, please remember to subscribe to our channel. We have more stuff coming out for you all the time. We got another interview lined up next week for more creative, talented people. Make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get 2 bonus shows. A little bit really goes a long way in helping the show. Be sure to check out SoWizardPodcast.com for reviews, recommendations, all new merchandise, and more. There's constantly new merchandise being added, and there's actually been a couple sales, so keep an eye out and get your So Wizard merch. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments or leave us something on social media. All of our accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. Thanks again.